Hormones are one of the most powerful forces in the human body, and they affect practically all aspects of our life. Hormone balance is a key aspect of living a long and healthy life. When hormones are imbalanced, they affect the libido, BMI, and our mood, just to name a few. Staying in shape and keeping the body in harmony isn't necessarily easy, but the more out of balance that your body is, the harder that it is to ultimately restore balance. One gynecologist, Dr. Sarah Gottfried, has recently written a book about how hormone imbalance affects weight and health, and explains a method that can help restore hormone balance and make it easier to create a new, lighter, and healthier you. A key aspect of weight gain is that it is largely the result of hormonal changes in most patients, though it's not always absolutely clear to the patient. Hunger and energy levels are largely controlled by hormones, and hormone imbalance can create a state in which the human body desires more calories than it actually needs, while not having the energy to expend those calories. Depression and anxiety are also issues with hormonal roots that contribute to exhaustion and obesity. For many patients, hormone replacement therapy is a highly effective option to treat hormone imbalance. But for patients with less severe and more correctable hormonal issues, a set of lifestyle changes may be all that is needed to restore hormone balance. Gottfried has created a system which she claims can fast-track your body and mind back to a state of vastly improved hormone balance, with a 21-day diet that tweaks the way that your body operates by adjusting the foods that you eat. She explains that while HRT treatments can be beneficial, she feels that many take these treatments when they don't need to, and that making foundational changes to the way that one lives their life is the ideal means to get in shape, mind, body, and soul. Gottfried focuses on 7 different aspects of diet over the course of 3 weeks in order to restore a healthier hormone state. For both men and women, it is important to control estrogen levels, and studies have shown that the consumption of both meat and alcohol contribute to elevated estrogen levels. In humans, this is largely the result of the use of hormone injections to encourage growth in cattle and other meats that we eat regularly. Alcohol is related to meat in this sense because alcohol promotes the production of estrogen from other sex hormones. For women, it is important for progesterone and estrogen to remain in an ideal balance. Estrogen is the predominant feminine sexual hormone and is responsible for the sexual characteristics which are the epitome of femininity. Another interesting fact is that carnivores have higher estrogen levels because their bodies have more bacteria, which fosters elevated estrogen levels. By taking 3 weeks off of alcohol and meat, the goal is to suppress excess estrogen and get the hormone back down to more natural levels. This becomes more important as we approach menopause because estrogen levels become more prone to imbalance. There is absolutely nothing healthy about refined sugar. Refined sugar is little more than a drug created to produce maximum pleasure on the taste buds. In nature, the body rarely comes into contact with such high doses of sugar, and the body is ill-equipped to handle it. Eating too much sugar too often causes the body to lose its ability to adequately control blood sugar levels in the bloodstream, leading to diabetes and a host of other conditions associated with poor cardiovascular health. Also, body fat is associated with both sugar intake and body fat, and there are studies that show that the more weight that you carry around your waist, the more likely you are to become diabetic. In Gottfried's diet, it is important to both tightly restrict sugar intake as well as forego dependence on artificial sweeteners such as aspartame and sucralose, which, though they don't have calories, still impact hormone balance by how they are perceived by the body and the brain. It's important to remember how widespread the use of sugar is and to remain highly aware in order to avoid sugar for 3 weeks. Even salad dressings and other foods that may not seem sweet at all may contain sugar. Fruits contain a natural sugar known as fructose, and the overconsumption of fructose is strongly associated with poor hunger modulation as well as insulin resistance. Leptin is the primary hormone which controls and suppresses hunger, and long-term excess consumption of fructose can reduce the effectiveness of the hormone from doing its job in the body. One major issue with how we perceive fruit is how fruit has changed over the generations. 50 years ago, most fruits that are commonly sold at the supermarket were much less sweet than those today. But in pursuit of customers, fruits were bred for their sweetness over their nutrition. For example, many apples sold today are many times sweeter than their historic counterparts. 50 years ago, an apple likely had little more than 2 grams of sugar, but the same grocery store apple today could have as much as 25 grams of sugar. There are many fruits and vegetables which are far superior today and contain next to no fructose, including avocados and olives. Cortisol is a very important hormone that, when the body produces too much, can lead to catastrophic consequences. Cortisol is the primary hormone that controls stress response. Caffeine is well known to raise cortisol levels. As a nation, the vast majority of us use caffeine regularly, and some people, whether they are sensitive to caffeine or simply abuse caffeine, have their hormone balance altered tremendously by its use. Heavy caffeine use amps up the body's production of cortisol, which is associated with anxiety, stress, fatigue, and cardiovascular issues. Cortisol also increases your desire for sugary, unhealthy foods, and by foregoing caffeine completely for 3 weeks, it reduces your cravings and gives your blood sugar a rest as well as your heart. Like processed sugars, we as a nation are also beholden to processed grains. Grains and sugars are both simple carbohydrates, the worst offenders with regard to your risk of diabetes. This is because the body can quickly absorb simple carbohydrates, which floods the bloodstream with glucose, which has to be processed, which contributes heavily to insulin sensitivity, prediabetes, and diabetes. Potatoes, pastas, white rice, and breakfast cereals are among the worst offenders with regard to blood sugar. Rather than eating these simple carbs, substitute potatoes for yams or sweet potatoes. Substitute burger buns and flour tortillas with spinach wraps, or replace flour crackers with crackers made from flaxseed. Grains have an impact on thyroid health, but there is evidence that excessive consumption of gluten can also cause issues with the thyroid. So for a 3-week detox, it's best to eliminate both at the same time. There are some major issues in the way that we raise and breed dairy cows in America today. These cows are loaded up with artificial hormones designed to help them grow large as quickly as possible. This means that the dairy company has more milk and meat to sell to the grocery store. But it also affects the quality of the meat and dairy, which can potentially pass some of those hormones and steroids to the customer, affecting his or her hormone balance. There are quality alternatives to milk, including coconut milk and almond milk. After foregoing dairy for detox, consider looking for hormone-free milk and meat products to reduce the influence of these hormones.